What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm DeeForThree, and we are here with a very, very, very special guest. We have the music artist and songwriter Melan. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. There we go. So first, I'm very excited that you were able to come to the show and basically, talk about, I guess, all things life, happiness, things of those natures, spirituality, music, of course, which we'll all tap into. You recently just put out your latest EP, Heart Lessons, right?
Yes.
Heart Lessons on October 1st, so another clap. That's our second one.
Thank you.
So I've listened to that project very, very numerous times.
Thank you.
And every time I'm in the car or whatever it is, I think 20 Levels is definitely one of my favorites.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, and Turquoise and Purple, that's another great one I really liked. But the other album EP that you have is called Cool Girl's Dream.
Cool Girl Dream, yeah.
Cool Girl Dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my favorite, personally, is the very first song that you have on that. Do you know what this is?
Be Free?
Be Free.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's low-key, hidden one. Not a lot of people actually listen to that one.
I love, the production behind it and also just, the effects that came with it. It's very cerebral and it kind of just gets me, especially when I'm driving and things like that, it gets me in the this very nice mood and things like that. So I thought it was a great way to start off the EP. But once again, we are very excited to have you here. And I guess the first question we would ask is, who is Melan?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I am, like you said, artist, songwriter. I like to describe myself as a multifaceted creative because I make music, but I also have other mediums of art. I have a business I also operate as well. It's a holistic health, plant-based wellness platform where I curate content and events that are centered around self-healing with nature. So that's that was a lot of words, but that's one of my other mediums. I like to write in general, so not just with music. I used to do poetry more so, spoken word, and I guess they call it slam poetry. And yeah, so multifaceted creative. I am from many places. I've moved a lot, but the DMV is the longest I've lived anywhere, so it's become a home for me. And yeah, I'm really passionate about just creating things that are supporting people in their own healing and also the healing of the planet. So I think that's an overview of who I am. Yeah, I guess there's a lot more I could say, but yeah, that's it.
I feel us as people are very complex, and we can only, I guess, put an overview of everything that we do. But there's also other pieces that are a part of us that, that we would like to share, but it's just you have to be around in a sense. Yeah. And I think a lot of us as humans and as people, we get to a place where it's we do a lot of these things and we're defined by people outside of what we do. So I used to play basketball, so I was labeled much more as just a basketball player, and that's what a lot of people saw me as, but they didn't see that, I was doing well in school. They didn't see that I had an artist side to me and things like that. They just saw me for a lot of the things that I portray in the limelight, I guess you could say. So I think those little pieces to us really help shape who we are and really help us grow within of ourselves. A lot of times we'll just say, oh, he's a basketball player. Oh, he's a doctor. Oh, she's a artist. And a lot of times we don't see those other aspects that are okay, in the kind of the journey that got us there in a sense, how my artistic side can help with basketball, or how my intelligence can help with my artist side and things like that, and how everything is kind of intertwined. But yeah, so that's kind of, I think, us as humans and us as people being on this earth and having those type of relationships, I think that a lot of times those are the things that really help us connect with people. And I think a lot of people latch on to like those little pieces, because it's like a lot of people do certain things, right? There's a lot of, but it's like, what is gonna help you differentiate from one another and things like that. So I didn't even talk about the tea that we had.
Oh yeah, we have teas here, so we're doing like a little tea tasting. Right now we're drinking the elderberry chai. This is by my friend Flower Girl Herbs. So it has like elderberry, a couple other herbs, black tea, and like a chai herbal mix. And we also have some honey. We got a couple other teas as well. So I'm like a tea person. I really love herbs and just any plant medicine. So
I think a lot of times I associate tea with my mom. I feel like anytime I was sick or something, she would always like make tea. She would always make a lemon honey tea, and that would like kick a lot of the stuff right out the window. And it just makes you feel warm. It makes you feel good. And I think it comes like, depending on the tea, it'll make you feel calmer, it'll make you have more energy. So it just depends on. So there might be tea fanatics out there that can also put us on to more things. But you said this one was which one?
Elderberry chai. So it's more energizing. We could start with the energizing, and then we could do the more chill one after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, tea is really therapeutic. Like you said, it's also like the warm water too. Like it's the herbs, but it's also just like comforting. Yeah,
definitely. And so, would you say that's would you say you're a big like coffee person as well, or?
No. Yeah. I stopped drinking coffee for the most part, like in college, because the college late night lifestyle. I definitely was like in the library doing all-nighters and all that. So I had some times with coffee, but it's not ideal for, it's just based on the studying I've done with like health, wellness, how the body operates. It doesn't really promote the best organ health, nervous system health, digestive health. Like it can kind of strain the body. So within moderation, I think I love like the art of coffee and like cafes. Like I love going to cafes and stuff, and like the cappuccino, like just the smell. Like it's something like, cute about it, but I can't really drink it like that.
Okay, sounds good. So speaking of like, I guess other artists, do you have any favorite artists? I guess we can talk about mainstream artists, and then we can talk about, I guess, smaller artists that you also listen to as well. And also, I guess we'll follow up after that. But
so my favorite artist, it's hard to pick like a one, but I think I have my one, and that's Frank Ocean.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So he's like a big inspiration for me. Other kind of like big people like that I kind of grew up listening to is like Aaliyah, Sade, Lauryn Hill. Those are big ones for me. Bjork, she's more alternative, but I really like Bjork. I also really like a lot of underground. Oh, it's not really underground, but at the time it was underground, like MF Doom, Madlib, all of that era of rap music. That's some of my favorite artists as well. Those are like some of my main ones, but I also have some bands like Little Dragon. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I've never heard.
They're one of my musical inspirations as far as like sonically. Hiatus Coyote, they're another good band I really like. Those are some big ones.
And so you said Frank Ocean. Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, it changes, but right now it's like White Ferrari.
Okay. White Ferrari.
I love that song.
It's a great song.
It just like makes me cry for some reason.
I think for me it would be Provider. You've heard that song? I think Provider. I think Siegfried is one that I really like as well. I love like the I don't like the instrumentation of, and it's like a lot of times like Frank Ocean, like I don't know how he does it. I don't know. He's just it's very indescribable, like how he puts pieces together and his lyrics, and like how he's really a genius when it comes to music.
He's like really helped me redefine like what it means to make a song. Like you could do so many things with a song. Like,
and how would you feel like, how would you say like he kind of inspires your music in a sense?
Well, from the writing and just like the abstract poetic nature of how he paints a story. And I mean, you could, like it could just be fragments of memories, or he's just kind of like very distinct in the way that he writes, where you don't really always know what he's drawing from, but there's like emotion embedded in the words. And then, like you said, just the different ways he like sonically paints the picture with the song, like just switching flows, switching the beat. Just being effortless with it. I don't know.
I know it's very, very effortless, but I know it probably takes him a while to like make these things. Yeah. And apparently he's supposed to be coming out with something. I mean, but that's also been speculation for a lot many years.
It's something's been recorded, but I don't know when it will come out.
For sure.
I hope within the next 2 years. I feel like within the next 2 years he's got to drop something else.
Because now Rihanna's dropping now too. So.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm really waiting for like. I literally say this all the time. Like since 2016, I've just been listening to their albums, like almost every week. Yeah. Like since 2016, those two albums. I
listened to Blonde maybe at least once a week. I listen to Blonde at least once a week. I think going, and I like go down the line. I don't like shuffling music, because I think every artist has a way of making their music make sense to us. And I feel like it should be in that order, and they have that order for a specific reason. So I'm not a big fan of like shuffling music. Now, if it's just like I just put something, if I'm trying to listen to every artist, but if I'm listening to an album, I like going one by one, because I feel like it's also a lot of times there's a story within each one. Yeah. And I recently was watching a DDG interview. I don't know if you know who DDG is.
I know the name, but I don't think I listened to his music
so he was a YouTuber, and then now he's a music artist now.
Oh, I didn't know he was a YouTuber.
Yeah, he was a big YouTuber. We used to watch him all the time. Whoa. And then he turned into a music artist, but he talked about his latest project that came out, and he was saying how he wants the listeners to listen from top to bottom, because there's a story and there's a message between, and how everyone connects right down the line. So I think that's how a lot of creatives and a lot of music artists kind of create their albums and things like that. So but going on to your EP, Heart Lessons, you have songs that I recently just talked about, 20 Levels, Luminary, Turquoise and Purple. What kind of inspires your music? I know there's, you have a lot of artists that will come from a place of pain. Artists will come from a place of love, relationships, and just, I mean, you have also like rappers who talk about like their life and a lot of and the things that they go through on a day-to-day basis and the environment that they live in. So what kind of inspires your music?
Definitely it's like authentically whatever I'm working through at the moment. So I think just pure emotion is what inspires it. So whether that is more from a place of pain or from a place of joy, it usually is like within that spectrum. But I also really love to like create from like a place where you can't really describe the feeling, so you just kind of transmute it. So it's really just a place of pure emotion, because sometimes you can't really pinpoint exactly how you feel. Like you can feel multiple things at once. You can feel really happy about something but also feel grief about something at the same time. So I like to and that's why I like artists like Frank Ocean, because you can just like kind of paint a picture where there's like multiple emotions and experiences in one, and it's really complex, but it makes you feel something. So yeah, I'm inspired by just the depth of emotion and how emotions are like encoded with information for us to learn from. And yeah.
And so how would you say like you pick I guess like the beat or the music behind, and is it like something that just like you hear it and it clicks, or is it something that you write the lyrics to first and then you try to find a beat that how does that process go for you?
Yeah, it has changed because I used to little backstory, like when I was trying to make music, before I started really recording music, I always loved to sing. I mostly did covers, and then I was like, okay, I'm a writer, but I want to write my own music. And I started to make songs, and I would just put them on my voice memos and stuff, but I didn't realize like how to actually make a full composition of a song. Like I just had melodies and like songs that were a cappella, but I was like, I played the guitar a little bit, but I didn't know how to make songs fully. So yeah, I was kind of like, I had these pieces of songs or just bare songs, and then it's like once you have the melody and the vocals, like trying to piece it to an instrumental is kind of challenging.
Yeah.
So I got advice from different artists, just like asking people, because I had a lot of friends who were made music too, and they were just like, yeah, you should start with the music first. You can do it many different ways, but I started shifting into just like finding beats that I like on YouTube, and then eventually from like people I know that make music. But starting to find the beats that I really have like a immediate chemistry with is almost always immediate. Like I know if I'm gonna like make something on it, or it's like no. And then from there, it will either be like a melody or certain sentence that kind of comes out, and then I will put it on a voice memo and kind of come back to it and just kind of uncover the song from there. But it's usually like a melody will come as soon as I'm starting to listen to the beat. It's just like a certain vibe will come through, and then that's kind of like the blueprint for the song.
Okay. And how do you have, as far as when you're creating your EP, do you have a specific number that you think of as far as like, okay, I want to make these many songs, and then you try to find it, or you have a whole bunch of songs and then you dwindle it down, or how does that go?
Yeah, dude. So like this is my second project. I'm still learning how to do all of this, but I literally just been going song by song. Yeah. But with both of these projects, I didn't always know I was making a project. I was just making these songs. I'm like, oh, I have to put it together into something because this is what you're supposed to do. So that's what happened with the first one. And then the second one, I'm like, I knew I wanted to release something around the same time this year, and it just kind of came together. I wanted it to be more songs, but it was just kind of a timely process. So I was like, okay, at least 7 songs. So there's 7 songs on both of the projects, and I like the number 7. So okay. Yeah, but ideally in the future, I want to shift into really like taking my time and knowing like I am making this, and it still like is a kind of unknown process. Like it comes together over time, but I want it to be like with the intention of creating a full body of work. Yeah.
I know it's kind of funny how I guess artists operate in a sense. Like you have some artists who can like literally just go into the studio, throw on a beat, and I'll just one take it, and it is what it is. And then you have people who it takes, you know, a few days, if not months, for them to like really get down, like what is in their mind. Like, oh, I need a little bit of this. I don't need a little bit of that. Yeah. And oh, I want to add this. I think Kanye does that a lot, where he like will go back on songs and will like, no, I don't want that. I need to add this, or like he'll go.
I actually relate to that because I saw a video of him making a song, and it was like he just will say a bunch of stuff on the beat and get the flow of it, and then just like mix out the words or whatever, mix and match the words. And I kind of do that too, like just like get the vibe and come back to it and write it later. But it's so inspiring, people that can just like go straight to the studio. And honestly, it's more about the confidence, because I know I have the capacity to do a lot more, but when working with other people going to the studio, there's just a lot of like, my capacity kind of changes, and I'm just like, okay, like it just takes a lot for me to even like record like in front of people. So I feel like, to like freestyle in front of people, like that's a whole other feat. But I would prefer to you know, get comfortable by myself
Mm-hmm.
first before getting in that creative flow. But it takes a lot of confidence and bravery to just be in that state in front of people and just kind of do it on the spot. Now but anyone can do it. It's just like a personality, I feel like.
Right. And you've had a couple like live events, or I think you had a listening party, or
yeah,
and
it was like a show.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, show.
Mm-hmm.
How does are you comfortable with like singing in front of people, and like how is that for you?
Yeah, it's always like a little nerve-wracking, but I'm definitely more comfortable after, like, I perform my music. I had performed before that, like poetry, open mics and stuff.
Okay.
But I performed my full set of my own music last August for the first time, and I've done like some shows between now and then. And I honestly really enjoy it, like more. I don't know if it's more than recording, but there is something special about it, especially if it's more intimate and people already vibe with the music. I feel like there's like a special thing about it. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's scary, but I also enjoy it.
And I know like a lot of it, I think I've seen a couple of your posts where it's like kind of more so of like an outside experience. Is that?
Yeah, so I did a couple shows at New Brooklyn Farms in Mount Rainier, Maryland, which is like a farm that I've collaborated with and done some partnerships with. And we had a couple shows there, so it's like garden concert vibes. And then I've done a couple other like small art venues. Yeah, my most recent show for the release of my second project, that was the biggest show I've done. And that was at the Eaton Hotel, which is like a really cool venue. A lot of really cool people have performed there. That was a big one. And yeah, I feel like it was scary. It was a little scary, but it was cool.
Now you talk about, you said you partnered with the garden. Now I've seen like you're very big into like gardening and things like that. What is, I guess, like gardening and being out in nature and things like that do for you?
Yeah. So relationship with nature, I feel like we all have that need in some way. Like we're beings of the earth, and whether we choose to acknowledge that or not, like we need the earth to survive for all of our physical needs, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we also can be supported and nurtured by the earth. So I just like to return to that through spending time in nature, whether that's like just taking walks or hiking or being in the ocean. And then also through working with the land, so through farming. I'm not a super like in-depth farmer. I've mostly like just volunteered, and I did a farming residency last year in Hawaii, where I did some farming for a more extended period of time. And it's a very humbling experience. It's not glamorous in any way that I think Instagram can sometimes make it look like. It's really like tedious and tiring. And it's a lot of just repetition of weeding things, digging things, harvesting, composting. But it shows you how much work it takes to like bring like food to life, bring plants, like care for plants, and what our ancestors have done. Like it's now we have factory farming, so it's a lot more convenient, but it's a really selfless process to work with the land. So I definitely learn a lot from being in nature, specifically with growing food. Yeah,
I think that would be a good experience. I don't think I've ever like planted and grown things and things like that. I wouldn't consider myself a really big nature person, as far as like hiking or going on walks and stuff like that. But I do love the beach. I love the beach. I'm not a big fan of the cold. I don't like going to the cold. I went to the Poconos. I want to say last year.
What's that?
Poconos Mountains. It's like, I think it's in Pennsylvania. No, it's in Pennsylvania. Okay, yeah. And it's basically just up there. You get a cabin or whatever, and you're like in the mountains. It's snowing all the time, and it's like you'll go skiing. They have like nice places where you can do all those little things. The first day we got snowed in, so we couldn't even like drive out of our driveway because it was like 6 to 12 inches of snow. Oh, wow. And I don't like being cold. I'd rather be hot than cold. Would you rather be hot or cold?
Hot for sure. I'm like a tropical
Okay,
person.
so we're on the same page because for me, people are always like, "Oh, you can layer up," but I'm like, there's a certain amount of layers that you put on where it just does not matter.
Yeah.
How many layers you put on. But so I'd rather be hot. They're like, "Oh, but you can't take your skin off."
Water.
I'm like,
just be in the water.
Right, exactly. And so I love the beach. I was just in DR, La Romana, and it was a very nice experience because this is the first time I've seen actually blue water. Wow. So it was very salty, but it was like very clear water. And it was like white sandy beaches and no seaweed. This is like one of the few beaches that doesn't have like a whole lot of seaweed. Oh, wow. So I don't like seaweed at all. I went to Jamaica and it had a whole bunch of seaweed, and I was like, I'll just stick to the pool. So
I feel you. The seaweed's good though. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
As far as like harvesting, sea moss and stuff. I feel you.
But so I'm really big as far as like being at the beach and things like that. And you said that you go to Hawaii.
Yeah, I lived there. So I moved there in high school. I lived there for a few years. I graduated high school there, and I went back last year for like a farming residency program. So it's become like somewhat of a second home because I was partially raised there, and I have definitely a connection to it. It's a very sacred place. I really admire the Native Hawaiian just culture, and I've spent a lot of time learning about the history of just the whole monarchy. They had kings and queens and just like Native Hawaiian spiritual practices, hula dancing, just a lot of different mythology and folk tales around the gods and goddesses. Really, there's so much sacredness in Hawaiian culture. Like every street name has like a story behind it, every mountain, every ocean, even like the types of currents in the ocean. It's a very beautiful culture. So I just really admire it. And I also love the water. So living there was just like, it really is paradise. Like the lifestyle is just like everyone just hikes, goes to the beach, and it's a lot more slow pace. It's a very special place, very healing, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I was watching a TikTok, and it was basically a native like Hawaiian basically talking about basically like the do's and don'ts when you come there. Because obviously like it's kind of been a controversial place on to whether you should go as a tourist or not. And what he was basically kind of saying, I don't want to fully misquote him, but this is kind of like the overview of what he was saying. He was like, you can come, but you just have to like respect the land and try to learn from people and learn from the natives that are there and like the nature and respecting the culture and things like that. I feel a lot of times like people just go and it's like, oh, we're just on vacation, like let's just do whatever. And they don't know like this is like people's this is where people grew up, this is where people live, and a lot of times that can hold something very heavy in somebody's heart. Is like this is a place where I have learned and the environment that I'm in and things like that. And so yes, if you go to Hawaii, make sure that you read up on like the proper guidelines into like respecting the culture and being in the right places and just being at that certain, I guess, kind of being all around and things like that. So but I definitely want to take a trip to Hawaii. I have on my dad's side, we're Native American.
Okay.
Beautiful. So we're from the Wampanoag tribe that's based on the Eastern Shore.
Beautiful.
So I haven't really fully gotten into all the ins and outs and learning myself on that side. I had a great aunt that gave me a sheet of like numbers and letters and how to say them and things like that when I was really small. Don't remember it now, and I wish I could find it. And when I graduated high school, not my grandma, but my great aunt, she also sent me a necklace, like a Native American necklace that celebrates like success and celebration and things like that for moving on to a new chapter in life. And so I always wanted to like give back to I guess like the natives who have been there, because reading up about like I guess how they've been pushed to reservations and the tragedies that's happened to them. I think it would be great to learn that aspect of me, and then also be able to share that with my kids and my family and things like that, to say like, hey, we're from this place, but we also have these roots as well. And I think that would be like something that's very, very special.
Yeah, definitely. That's so important. That's really great that you were able to have some connection and just have some more knowledge, because a lot of people don't.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I also have started to learn about more of my roots. I also have Native American on both sides, but I'm learning more about on my grandmother's side. Like her great grandmother was like half Native American. So I've been learning more about the ancestry on both sides. I have a lot of different ethnicities on both sides, but all from the African diaspora. Ultimately, it's like a melting pot.
Right.
But yeah, that's beautiful. Definitely, we're living in America, so it's important to, especially if we're connected to that, we need to know that, and also just respect and learn about this culture, because yeah, it's really unfortunate the way it's been completely erased and exploited.
Right. Yeah. But as far as like, I guess next vacation spots, do you have like a lot of different vacation spots that you are on the bucket list?
Yeah, I'm actually going to Costa Rica.
Okay.
The week after next week.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah, I've been to Costa Rica a few years ago. I also really want to go to number one on my list is Japan.
Ooh.
I've never been to Japan, but both my older sisters were born in Okinawa, Japan, because my dad was like in the Air Force when they were born. So I really love Southeast Asia. I want to check out more Southeast Asia. I've been when I was younger, like to Thailand and stuff, but I want to go to Indonesia. I want to go back to Hawaii at some point. Yeah, for real though, Japan and these are like countries, like Japan, Brazil, South Africa, somewhere. My stepmom's from South Africa. I've never been, but those are like the top 3 countries I want to go to, I think. But I also want to go just like more nearby, like the Caribbean, like, I don't know, Jamaica or somewhere like that. I have a long list, as you can see. I could go on and on about that, but Costa Rica is right around the corner, so I'm excited about that.
Sounds good. Definitely. Like now, I think traveling is very necessary before like settling down and having a family or whatever it may be, having obligations that are a little bit more tied, makes you more tied down. So I definitely have a bucket list as well, but I definitely want to. I didn't go out of the country until about 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
No, last year was the first time I went to. Last year was the first time. I went to Jamaica for the first time, so I had a passport and just never used it till I was like 22 years old. So,
wow.
But I think now that I've gotten that taste of like, what it is to like go somewhere else and vacation somewhere else, because like I've been very confined to like the DMV. Like I was born and raised in the DMV. I've never moved out of my house. So I've been in the same house since I've been conceived, I guess you could say. And then I went to high school here, and I went to college also in Maryland as well. So I think it's like very important that I like want to branch out, and learn and also experience different places. I went to Los Angeles last year. And I loved it. I was a very big fan.
I mean, like, it's a lot to it because it's a lot of like Hollywood culture, but there's more than just that, and like the culture is really cool. It's really beautiful. So much good food. I really like it.
We stayed in Redondo Beach, and it has a lot of Hispanic culture there as well. So I think the first place that we went to was a Spanish restaurant, and it was very good. It was like right on, almost like you could see the beach from where we were eating and things like that. And it was just a great vibe. I had a great time. I can't wait to go. I want to go again next year. So I definitely want to travel a lot in the United States, but also I have like a lot of the same countries that you have as well.
The U.S. too, though. There's more places I want to go in the U.S. too.
Have you ever thought about, I guess, taking a train across America?
I haven't, but to be honest, I was telling y'all, like, I moved like 10 times growing up, so I had a good experience of a lot of different like states and stuff. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm trying to stay more grounded right now. I do want to do a lot of traveling, and I do want to make more moves, but I also want to also figure out like where is my place. I want to get more rooted to have like a home. So I don't know. But as you said, like, this is the time to do that, like early 20s vibe. Like,
right.
This is the time. So I'm open to it.
I guess kind of getting back to the music. As we said before, your last EP was titled Heart Lessons. Why did you name it that?
Yeah. So I feel like lessons are embedded in all of our life experiences, and in my healing journey, I've focused a lot on matters of the heart, and I study like the chakra system. So that's just like the energy centers of our energetic body. So we have like the physical body, we have our organs, we have our cells, all of that. But we also have an aura, and we also have an energy body, and each center of our body is governed by what they call a chakra. A lot of different cultures, predominantly in India, they've studied like the chakras, and a lot of my journey has been guided by the heart chakra, like going through different painful experiences and carrying that weight in my heart and then transmuting that. But the heart is also where it's our deepest emotional center.
Right.
It's pain, but it's also love, it's compassion, forgiveness, all of these really transformative emotions. Right. And we learn about, just in our society, like listening to your heart, being guided by your heart, really feeling from your heart, speaking from your heart. It's a very pure and just soul-guided place that I feel, it's always just been a theme for me, coming back to the heart. So I wanted to commemorate that in some way. So just lessons that are related to the heart, that can mean it's not just about romantic love. It's like so many different shapes that could take. Anything just related to emotions that are felt in the heart and what we're learning from them. That's kind of what heart lessons
right yeah
means.
And what would you say like your biggest heart lesson was?
Yeah,
or is
I've been thinking about that. I think the lesson of like non-attachment is the biggest one that is challenging, but it's like, I think it's arguably like the biggest lesson of the human experience. And a lot of cultures, really, that's like the gem within Buddhism. What the Buddha taught was like non-attachment. Like, we leave the body and we can't carry everything with us. All we have ultimately is like the spirit or the soul. And I guess I'll speak in terms of like relationships. Non-attachment shows up in the sense that like you can feel a connection to someone, you can love someone, and ultimately you can have a form of partnership, whether it's a friendship or a more committed relationship, but you can't you can't be attached to the person at the end of the day. Like, you're really just experiencing them, you're experiencing each other, and you can build things together, but ultimately attachment is like what creates more pain, because we can't control, we only can control ourselves. So I feel like that's been a really potent lesson of the heart, is just non-attachment, trying to not be attached to the outcomes of what I want a situation to be, or what I want a person to be, or what I want anything to be. Like, we can have intentions and visions for things, but we create suffering for ourselves and for other people when we're like trying to control and attach. So I think that's a big one, honestly, non-attachment.
Now, how would you say, I guess, non-attachment and love have to, how do they, so can I love somebody and not have attachment to them, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's tricky. So I'm learning, like, I watch a lot of videos from, like, not only spiritual teachers but also psychologists and stuff, and they talk about attachment theory, and there's different attachment styles is what they call it. So you can have like a hyper attached sense, which really it draws from like your childhood trauma or just how you relate, because attachment is natural from birth, because we're supposed to be, we're born into an attachment to our mothers when we have to rely on them for our whole survival, and then we gradually become less attached and have to form our own kind of solitude and just like self-reliance. But a lot of our relationships that we attract kind of stem from that parental model, and then we attach in a similar way to how we were taught, what we saw modeled, or just based on our own personalities and our own needs or whatever. So I'm kind of going on a tangent, but to bring it back to like, can you love someone and not be attached? I think acknowledging that attachment is natural and we're programmed to attach, but it's really about establishing a healthy boundary of relating. So I think embodied like autonomy as an adult is seeing that, okay, it's more healthy to like relate. You meet someone, you connect with them, whether any sort of relationship, there's some sort of connection that draws you together, and appreciation, and you're sharing experiences, but there can still be boundaries energetically between you and that person where you have your own identity, you have your own space, you accept them for who they are, you accept yourself, and you have a way that you're sourcing your own fulfillment. Because if you become in a more attached way, it can put pressure on the other person, and it can also strain yourself. So it's like finding a balance. I would say it's not inherently easy depending on your attachment history, but I think it's possible. I think it's ideal that we're growing into a space where it's kind of like accepting that attachment is a given, but we're kind of drawing that back and creating a relationship where you feel free and you're honoring each other as individual beings, because at the end of the day, whether you stay together or not, you're only your individual selves ultimately. So yeah, it's a process, but being human and acknowledging attachment is natural, I think, is important though too. So
I think one thing that that kind of resonated with me was the part about building healthy boundaries. Yeah. I think like for me, I'm a very, very relational person. I like to connect with people. I like to grow with people, and I think me also just having like a big friend group kind of is like a testimony to that. But I think it's also understanding that I would say for me, not everybody is supposed to be at the finish line with you in a sense. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of times people come in your life for seasons, and obviously seasons change. I think the hardest thing for me is just kind of understanding that sometimes people, not everybody, but some people are just here for seasons, and the seasons change, and you just kind of have to realize that, you know, there's people that are going to be in your life for certain experiences in a sense. And I think a lot of times, like God will send you certain people in places and times that you need it the most. I know there was some times where I can even attest to, I was having trouble in school, in high school. I mean, not in high school, in college, and I was having trouble graduating, not with school related stuff. It was more so like some other stuff that happened. Nothing crazy. I hope that didn't come off as anything like that. But I was going through a rough patch, and I was really just trying to figure out, like, who can I talk to, and who can I gain some insight, and who's gonna help me feel better, or like help the situation, stuff like that. And I really think if it wasn't for some of the friendships that I made in my church, and some of the guys who have been really leaders in my life and things like that, and them kind of me just being able to pour my heart out and like, hey, this is what's going on, and like I really just need some encouragement, some prayer, or whatever it may be. If it wasn't for them, like I really feel like I would have been in a lot harder position than I was at the time. But a lot of times that really gave me a lot of comfort then. And I think that's like really when I needed them the most. Like, of course I can also always reach out to these guys that I'm talking about right now, but I think that was a point in my life where I was like, okay, we're interacting a lot in this space. I'm like, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why was I even like interacting all that time like that, aside from what was going on? And I think it was just because that situation was coming up, and I was going to need help. And not saying that everybody has to like, you have to brush your hands off with everybody, but I think that it's sometimes like you have friends in high school that you were really strong with, but now it may not be like anything college or whatever it may be, or they might not have been that much of a friend in high school, but now in college, like for some reason, like they're really
timing.
So I think like a lot of times, like people come and go and things like that. And I think it's just about like really maximizing that relationship and growing and figuring out kind of, why am I being placed here with this person? In what ways can I be selfless and they can benefit from me? And not so much of just like a transactional, like what they can benefit from me, what can I get from them? But it's more so just like you both being selfless and helping in times of need, and helping in time, and just being there for when things are high. I think a lot of times people think that when you reach a certain point, or only like when you're down low is when you need the most help. I think a lot of times too is when you're high up or you're doing well and things like that. I think you should still have the same level of attention and attentiveness to things and things like that. So, but yeah, that's kind of like my little spiel, I guess, as far as like hard lessons. But you talked about like your healing process. I know you talked a little bit about, your process and things, but what would you say is like, how does your spirituality play a part in your healing process?
Yeah. I would say I believe in God. I believe in a higher power, and that's kind of the foundation of it. Regardless of what you believe, I think having a reverence for just creation and this life experience is really valuable. I think that's really what brings me peace, knowing that I'm here for a purpose that I'm still realizing. There's something higher guiding me. I believe like we have our angels, ancestors, God, and there's also our higher self, the concept that there's a higher form of our spirit that is with us and guiding us as well. Those concepts really help ground me and give me comfort in knowing that in this whole complex human experience that there is a divine creation outside of my control, and I can do my best each day to just kind of uncover why I'm here, what I'm supposed to be learning, how I'm supposed to be growing and contributing to the world. And there's just a divine plan. I think having a belief in a divine plan and just that there's an orchestration is very helpful for me. And it's not just like a concept or belief. I've also experienced it and seen it in action and felt it. So I think the relationship to that divine unseen power has helped to bring me where I am today. So all of the, as you know, just like life experiences, painful stuff, it brought you different gems. It revealed different things to you. It activated different parts of you and guided you to the next point you're supposed to be at. So I know it's kind of corny. Everyone says like everything happens for a reason, but I do believe there's a value in having that perspective.
Right.
There are things that we can't control. They're really bad things that happen on the planet, but with as much as we can, understanding that there is some divine order in place, I think it can bring a lot of peace as we're trying to navigate this experience and heal or learn or grow. It's really just a foundational grounding and comforting for me, and just something that I've experienced. So.
Yeah, I think like going back to what you said as far as like everything happens for a reason. I think like that as well. Like I think that like everything does happen for a reason, and I think it ultimately is for you to the things that happen basically are here because they're supposed to be uncovering, unraveling pieces of you, and ultimately leading you to a purpose. I feel like for me, I'm very purpose driven, so I'm like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? I mean, I think I say that a lot. I think there's times that you should, just step back and enjoy life, enjoy the creation and everything around you, relationships, nature, and just being present. And I think there's also times where it's like, okay, let me sit down and figure out why I'm here or what I'm here for. I think relationally, what I kind of was talking about before, like, why am I in this person's life? But I think it goes more to that, was like, why am I here? And I know it's such like a cliche thing to say, like, why am I here? And it's such a broad thing. But I think ultimately we're here to uncover that and try to figure out, what qualities, what traits, what gifts were I given that will help me along my journey or help me along my path and make an impact, whether it be, on a person's life, whether it be, like on the earth as far as like making the world a better place. I think all of that ties in, and you have to just kind of, it's like an everyday thing. And one of my coaches always used to say, like, be 1% better every single day. So I've always kind of like, I was like, that really hit me. And I always think about that. Like you have I have coaches that say things all the time. So, but I think that's something that's always stuck with me, is that be 1% better each and every day. And whether that's, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, always look for ways to improve and be better. Whether that's on yourself, whether that's in relationships or just personal growth. So, I guess one other question I would have is, like, where or who do you feel like most grounded with, or what place? Or
I'm gonna touch on some aspects from the last question, guys. I feel like I left out some stuff too. So, where in nature, honestly, I do feel like nature is an expression of God and is God as well. We're pieces of God. Nature is a piece of God. So I feel like nature is automatically healing and rejuvenating, and it brings me back to a state of just equilibrium and calm within all of my energy centers. So that is where I feel the most grounded, like in a forest or by the ocean or something like that. Luckily, I live near like a piece of nature I can go to. And as far as like with people, definitely like just close friends, and I really call them like soul family, like different people that I've just shared different karma with and have learned from and feel safe with. I feel grounded in that sense. Also, though, I'm in a place where I'm trying to feel more grounded within my own body and just like be my own sense of home, because I do feel like as someone who's kind of recovered from a more codependent pattern, it's important to just still have support systems, but be able to be there for myself and be alone, and also feel at home and feel like I can be grounded without latching on to things outside of myself. And then when I've reached that sense of groundedness, then I can kind of receive the support that's in my orbit as well. So yeah, I'm trying to establish that too, on the note of just like how spirituality plays in to the healing, as well as this last question. I think it's important to mention just the practices that allow me to tap into that, because that is really how I consistently, it's not really just about what we know, it's also just like how we embody that in our day-to-day. So we can, know a lot of things, but if we're not really applying it, it's like it can't really be fully expressed through our experience. So meditation has been something that's really helped me for like, I don't know, maybe like 7-8 years now. I meditate almost every day. I try to have like a daily rising routine in the morning. So I try to do like a prayer, some sort of acknowledgement for the fact that I woke up, and then meditate, different forms of meditation. Sometimes I do like a sound healing meditation, or chakra centered, or visualization, or just like focusing on breathing and being present. I also like yoga because it's really like an art form of combining the physical and the energetic, and it's also like very strengthening. And then reading, writing, time in nature, those are like really my routines, and like consuming something that's like good for my body. Yeah. But really the prayer and meditation, and some form of movement has been really essential, just to kind of actualize the awareness that I've gained and stay sane, honestly. Like, I feel like because of all of the external stimuli in our society, and just all of the emotions, working, all the different, pressures and ways we have to use our energy, I feel like it's become essential for me to have these practices to kind of just come back to my truth and know that, like, yeah, it's gonna be okay, I guess. Yeah.
I guess last question I have, what do you want your audience to gain from your music?
I've been thinking about this question more because when I started sharing my music, I did not think about people's reaction as much. It's like you really don't know how people are going to react.
Yeah, exactly.
And gradually, I've been grateful to receive like a lot of positive feedback, not just about on a superficial sense, like, oh, this is fire or whatever. It's more so like people feeling like they were impacted on a soul level or a heart level, that something spoke to them or they felt mirrored their experience. So I really want the music to help connect them more to themselves, to allow them to feel more at home in their own body, because that's what I'm trying to do. It's not even like I want it to have a specific impact for my own intention. I'm doing what it's like, I'm making this to first heal myself, and I'm infusing it with that pure intention. And because we're all connected, it will naturally have an impact to those who resonate with it. So that's kind of like, I just want it to do what it's supposed to do, guided by God, whatever that's supposed to be. But if anything, I would just want it to help people feel more connected and at home with themselves, more connected to their heart, and just like, I guess feel more empowered to be themselves. If anything, maybe to express themselves, to also use their voice if they have that desire to. Because I do think we can give other people like the bravery to like do what maybe they were afraid to do. So by being vulnerable in my music, I guess I hope that people feel more inspired to be vulnerable in their own way. So that's one thing. Good.
Well, I want to thank you again for connecting with me and taking the time out your day to connect with me. And I really appreciate, the words that you had to say and a lot of different perspectives that you had. I feel like we could go on for a lot of time because I have a whole lot of more things to say, but I want to, honor your time. And once again, I really appreciate you. If everybody here wants to listen to Melan, all you have to search is Melan on Apple Music, Spotify.
Melan.
Yep, on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, all of those things. I also have her social medias and everything like that tagged. So you definitely want to give her a follow and make sure that whenever she drops, you go ahead and listen, because I definitely will be listening, and Brian will be listening as well, because I'll be sending it to him.
Thank you.
But once again, thank you. And thank you, everybody, if you made it this far. Make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, and also connect with us. We're all on social media. We're all looking for, growth and things like that of that nature. And I'm always willing to help. And I know a lot of your posts and things like that have been, somewhat inspiring to me as well. So, and definitely your music has as well. So, thank you, and thanks to everybody who else is watching. And we'll catch you on the next one.